What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of That Great Podcast. Today we have Nicholas Lee. He's a holistic wellness coach, and I'm super excited to pick his brain and see what we can all learn from him. So, Nicholas, man, thank you so much for coming by.
My
How are you
pleasure.
doing, brother? Everything good? You found the place all right?
Yes, of course. It's a pleasure to be here and
Nice,
doing better than ever.
nice.
Like I said before I even walked in here, you caught me probably at the best moment of
Right,
my life.
right.
So,
Yeah, let's dig into it, man. Let's dig into it. So, tell us a little bit about your background, kind of how you came into this, and just a little bit about yourself.
yeah, so I grew up here in Miami, and both of my parents are teachers and coaches. So, naturally, I was kind of raised in that environment where I had good mentors, good teachers, I had guidance. And my dad was always like encouraging me to get into coaching or teaching, and I was always like,
A
But
particular kind of coaching, or
yeah,
just
my dad was two-time Olympian,
nice?
and so yeah, I kind of grew up in his shadow, and I'm grateful for that upbringing, but I didn't want to like follow his path. You know
Mm,
what I mean? I was always kind of like a rebel in a sense, where there was something guiding me beyond what the blessings and the teachings that my parents were like giving me and the community I was in, because when you grow up in a sports background, um, there's a lot of great parents around, a lot of great families, mentors, all that. But there was something inside of me that was always like this like rebel, not in a bad way, but a rebel to like create my own lane and just be guided by something that like was showing me internally,
mm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I think that speaks to what a lot of people kind of feel
Yeah,
in one way or
exactly.
another.
Yeah, so over the years, I just started working on myself, and then I feel like there's a point where you have so much, that you've learned that your cup is overflowing. So what do? We share that.
Mm.
So here I am today to
Nice,
share that.
nice. So, about how many years have you been practicing?
Well, like I said, I grew up in that sports background. So
Yeah,
when I was like 10, 12 years old, I started competing.
nice.
And then I went to my high school. When I was in high school, I was like a three-time All-American. And then by the
Which
time,
sport?
water polo.
Nice.
So
That's a
yeah,
tough
yeah,
sport,
very
man.
tough sport.
That's a tough sport.
Yeah. So by the
Wow,
time I was 16, I made the U.S. national team,
wow.
which is like a big deal.
Yeah,
And I got to travel and wear all the gear, Team
yeah.
USA, all that
Nice,
stuff.
man.
It was huge. Then I made it to university. Obviously D1 out in California, and then I ended up injuring myself physically. So I was a little bit lost at that point because I was just kind of identifying with being an athlete
Mm.
or a jock or
So it
something
was
like
like
that.
it was a sport or athletic career ending type of injury where it kind of put you on
Yeah,
the okay,
exactly,
okay.
exactly. And then, through, I would say, the grace of God always, I found my spiritual friends and my first yoga teacher.
Mm. And that's the rest is history.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Okay, so that's I didn't know all that about you, man. That's super impressive. And like I said, my stepfather's actually an Olympian as well in swimming.
Oh,
But
wow.
so I kind of grew up hearing about that, and I swam for a bit, not near the level of you, but he always talked about water polo kind of as an ancillary, and it's like it's tough. Like
Yeah, it
it's
definitely
a
is.
rough
Yeah,
sport.
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about. I kind of wanted to pick your brain on mindfulness. So I guess a good place to start would be like, what is that? What does that mean? What does it really mean to be mindful?
Yeah, it's amazing to hear that word come up a lot, all around the world. It's just like in every circle, I feel like anyone that's doing anything productive is talking about
Yeah.
mindfulness. So, in my eyes, what is mindfulness? It's like infusing your mind with what you are, because you have to come to the position of like what you are. You're not your mind, right? And you're not your body, but they're yours to manage, right? My mind is like a technology that I'm experiencing. It's like a tool and an instrument for myself. And so is the body, right? So, what I believe in is as a soul, we come into this human experience, right? We're spiritual beings, and we come into this body to experience the mind and the body, right? And we get to figure out how they work, how they function. So mindfulness requires you to code your mind with your consciousness and your awareness, right? You cannot be mindful unless you're conscious or you're aware, correct?
Yeah, of course.
So also, in order to be mindful, you have to understand is your breath is the main thing, right? A lot of people are not mindful because they're breathing irregularly.
Yeah.
So in order to be mindful, again, it's like coding your mind with your breath and your awareness, right? And then you're able to observe what's going on in your mind. Like most of us have our mind that's been programmed, that's been conditioned through our family, our society, our countries, our belief systems, what we read, what we watch, all these things. But then when you start to have an awakening and you're like, I'm responsible for my mind because it's stressing me out, it's making me anxious, it's triggered, it's angry, it's bothered. Also, it's happy,
Sure.
it's sad, it's
Yeah.
ecstatic, it's whatever. It's
Yeah.
like a full range of experiences, the duality, the polarity of the mind. And then when you come to the position, mindfulness, yes. When I was growing up, even though I had amazing teachers, my parents, I had all these coaches, but that word didn't even come up once. It's crazy. But now
Yeah.
it's coming up all the time.
Right.
Every day.
Right. And funnily enough, I think in athletics, there's a book, man. I wish I could remember the name of it and the name of the author, but if I saw the cover of it, I would know. And then he talks about that, and kind of there's like a flow state that
Yeah,
he was like
exactly.
a very accomplished kind of prodigy chess
Yeah,
master.
exactly.
And he was just talking about in the context of his book how that flow state, and he can literally like, he enters it when he's playing,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
there was like, it's physiological, it's all sorts of
Yeah.
things that manifest as a result of that, but that's when he played his best. And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
the book was about him exploring you can tap into that in
Exactly.
other areas, and it was a very interesting read. But back to the whole mindfulness. So in terms of practice, you mentioned the breath being a very
Yeah.
integral part of that. What else, and what are the kind of practices that help to build? Would you call it a muscle of mindfulness, a habit of mindfulness?
Yeah. Because your mind needs to be trained, right?
Sure.
So if your mind is not trained, it's going to become an impediment to your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because your mind is like your interface with reality. Like your mind and your senses as well
Sure.
allow you to perceive reality, right? So the practices are designing your mind to be the way it's supposed to be, like utilized. You know
Okay.
what I mean? So there's a lot of practices that I do every single day to make my mind more settled, because your mind just fluctuates, it's like a fluctuation. When you start to like meditate and do these practices like the introspection, then you can see all these random thoughts bubbling up, all these things that are just coming through your mind. But I didn't, like, they just did it on its, like, the mind just generates things on its own. It just fabricates things. So
Yes.
when you develop the ability to observe your mind, then you're really awakening.
Yeah.
So that is the practice, is
Okay.
developing the ability to observe your mind and be detached from it. You know what I mean?
Right. No judgments on a particular emotion that may
Yeah.
come. It's more of just a acknowledgement maybe, and you're kind
Yeah.
of seeing it you're not judging it for what it is. It's just
Yeah.
there it is.
Yeah, because when you start to label things and you start to judge things, because that's the way we're kind of taught through
Sure.
society.
Yeah.
We're like, this is wrong, this is right, this is good, this is bad, this is this, this is that.
Right.
And what happens is our mind starts constricting, and it doesn't expand if it's like tense, because every time a weird thought comes up, which all the time,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It comes up, then if I don't get triggered by it or bothered, then I won't be stressed out.
Right.
You know what I mean? I won't be like in this energy where I'm constantly triggered, or you know what I mean? So that's the whole thing, is like doing the practice of observing your mind with detachment.
Okay.
It's like a constant practice. That's
Right.
the mindfulness. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
It's almost like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like it's
Yeah.
so. Before I move deeper into that, I wanted to ask you. So you mentioned something interesting about the programming, and we really are. I've come to realize that,
Yeah.
I don't want to harp on it, but COVID, I feel like, was a big shift for everyone, and for me,
Yeah.
one of the many things that came out of it for me was I realized that there's really a lot of programming that's going on, and just
Yeah.
in the more innocuous way you mentioned it, which can be subtle with your parents and TV and
Yeah.
everything. But in the practice, are you shedding that programming, or is it more like what you said, kind of observing, acknowledging, and letting it kind of just
Yeah.
flow?
So everything is like energy, frequency, and vibration, right? So what happens is when you do your mindful practice, if you are detached from those things and you don't label them as like good or bad or right or wrong, then you don't feed them energy
Mm,
because your attention is your energy,
sure.
right? So that's how they got us, through our attention,
Yeah.
right? You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
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 So that's what we have to do, is realize, okay, you can dissolve those things that are in your mind if you don't give them energy.
Mm,
Simple as that.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Right.
if I
Right.
start feeding into this thought, then it goes into this story that's fear based, then I'm feeding it. It becomes an energy that's like monstrous
Yeah.
in my
Truly.
mind.
Yeah.
And then I wake up every day with that thought.
Right.
It's because I kept feeding it.
Yeah. And it gets to the point where
Yeah.
there's so much input, especially now, there's so much input that
Yeah.
you can't even necessarily pinpoint which of those that you fed that is giving you that feeling. So, dude, I think you're
Yeah.
100% spot on.
Yeah.
Question about where we are now with modern, you can call it whatever you want, but modernization. I think social media has played a huge role. AI is going to play a huge role. It's kind of a buzzword right now, but I see it, for me,
Yeah.
I see it as the next change and shift that the internet was. That's my personal opinion. So for you, and I'll let you kind of lead it. What's going right? What's going wrong? And you can choose which one to start with. But where are we at in your view?
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is this, is like sometimes we label, again, things right or wrong or good or bad, but like nothing is really inherently good or bad.
Okay.
Like these technologies, in terms of that, like our phone, if people say, oh, the phone's terrible, social media is terrible, then they're missing out on the other side, which there is a reality that the phone is a great tool
Connecting
for
to
us. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
True.
So, there's people that use things, again, mindfully. So that's what the main thing we have to understand is, like, I don't really use AI to like guide me, but like, for example, if I know Chat GPT 5 just came out the other day and I have no idea how to make a website and do
Yeah.
all these things, it can make a website for me in like one prompt. Why wouldn't I utilize it?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then if
Yeah,
all of a
that's
sudden
true.
I'm outsourcing all my, information,
Yeah.
then I'm like disabling my own intelligence,
Right.
and people don't realize how intelligent they really are.
Mm.
You know what I mean? But when you keep outsourcing your intelligence, we have to figure out a way to bring out our intelligence. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then there's other things that can help us, for example, like AI,
Yeah.
to assist us in building certain things. It might be
Sure.
hard for us to do it, so I don't have to hire a web designer
Yeah.
or do all these things. Or there's so many ways it can benefit us, but
Yeah.
like I said, the other ways are also, it's kind of a red flag.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. I
Yeah.
feel like striking the balance, like you're saying, it's kind of being mindful and just kind of using these tools. That's all they are. They're just
Yeah,
tools.
exactly.
And some people will integrate it so much that they become like crutches, right?
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily created as a crutch. It's supposed to just kind of help.
Yeah.
I think it speaks to us as humans too, kind of our propensity to do that. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
interesting that we kind of build these dependencies. Even now
Yeah.
in my workflow, I'm like, man, I caught myself like in a mental conversation of mine, like, oh, I need AI for this, and then like immediately
Yeah.
I was like, bro, like 2 years ago you literally had
Right?
zero. Like, what do you mean you need it? You could, so it's an
Yeah.
interesting thing that's happened there. On the topic of social media, what I've luckily I've been blessed to not suffer from it too much. No one's immune to it. I don't think so. I've gone through it. What are and I think I know what your response would be, but I want to hear it anyway. About like kind of that comparison culture that's risen. You know, social media is the highlight of everyone's life, right? So even acknowledging that when you see certain things, depending on where you are at in life, it's for me. I'll be totally open. It's easy to kind of
Yeah.
slip into that comparison mode,
Yeah.
and so practically I'm asking actually for help. How do you deal with that? How do you kind of mitigate those sorts of
Yeah.
feelings?
I feel like, well, first and foremost, I don't know who said it, but like, comparison is like the robbery of our own joy.
Sure. Yeah,
You know what
I've
I
heard that.
mean?
Yeah.
So like we got to remember that.
Yeah.
So what I understand is this, like, yeah, I've compared myself many times against, teammates, against, you know, people that are around me in my community. I compared myself to strangers, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Yeah.
we're all on our own journey. Some of us are more evolved, some of us are less evolved, you know what I mean? So we have to be present with where we're at right now, the power of the now,
Right.
that's the most important thing. Sure, we can learn from other people and being like, they are over there, but I don't feel bad right now for where I'm at. You know what I mean? Because if I understand the possibility of the now, then I can bring mindfulness into this equation, and I can negate any ignorance that's like, you know, basically comparing me to another person that has
Mm.
already done way more work than me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And
So I
just had a
shouldn't
different path as well, and
yeah.
no one's path is the
Yeah.
same. It's
Certain people have more exposure to
right.
different teachers and they evolve really quickly.
Right.
So, but at the same time, right now, where we're at is like, if you're connected enough, I would say, then you'll direct yourself to the right information so you can really evolve quickly. And that's why it's great to be in this modern time,
Yeah.
because there's the wealth of information all around us, in the palm of our hand,
Yeah.
and we can use that, you know, to excel in any way we want, and not worry about, oh, this person's over here. Hey, I can catch up.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
then have put a smile on my
Right.
face and not rob myself of my joy, because I
Right.
was like, yeah, I can catch up. I have all these. If I just put in the work
Yeah.
by loving myself and having discipline, it's on. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I
Damn.
got chills saying that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
boom, there's no
Yeah.
joy.
Damn. So
It's like,
it's more of a thing of rather than compare, use maybe, or you can kind of turn that into like inspiration.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
kind of like they're doing it. Why
Yeah.
not you? That's
That's the best thing. And
yeah.
that comes through mindfulness. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It really does, because if you use other people as motivation, then it's on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's on not in a competitive way. It's more of an
Yeah.
on within yourself of like, oh, like I got this. Like,
Yeah.
someone's done doing this or, whatever. Because I think that applies for everything, and like for me, I'm an entrepreneur. Been grinding the axe and been getting after it for a couple of years now. And the fruits of labor are starting to manifest, not where I want to be yet, but we're on the
Yeah.
journey. It's a journey.
Yeah, exactly.
But those feelings come in, because
Of course.
it's just one of those things, especially where your, in my case, livelihood and my metrics of success are very much tied to the business. It's
Yeah.
very easy for me to slip into like that comparison mode. So that's a golden
Yeah.
nugget for me is like, well, flip it, just make it inspiration and motivation.
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you along that context, because you also are kind of, you have your own practice, and
Yeah.
you're an entrepreneur in your own right.
Yeah.
What are some ways that your practice has actually benefited you, and how does it kind of manifest in your business, and how has it helped you?
Yeah, so, the capabilities we have as a human being is to be like self-realized, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So self-realized is like, nobody knows what you need to do for your life. Some people have some tips for you and they have some guidance,
Yeah.
but, you know, there's something about your own insights and your own intuition that's guiding you. But if we make that insight or that intuitive ability louder and louder and louder, then we realize what we need to do for ourselves, for our own journey.
Mm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Instead of being like, what do I do? What do I do? And then you keep looking, outside of yourself, which you won't really probably get the right
You
answer.
can't find it.
So if you do the inner work, like I know through experience of over 20 years of yoga and doing the inner work, there's all these voices in your head, you know what I mean? And once you know which one is your real self talking to you, it's like the voice of reason, it's like your God self. If you stick with that voice, then it's going to guide you
Mm.
in the direction that you need to go. It's going to give you the clarity. It's going to give you, the direction,
Yeah.
the realization. It's going to give you that aha moment,
Yeah.
epiphany.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Boom. No one's going to give you that. It's
Yeah.
beyond logic.
Right.
It's beyond thinking.
Yeah.
It's like something magical about yourself. So the whole science of yoga is to understand your technology that's built into you and the possibility to be self-realized.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And this kind of got me onto a segue, if you'll allow me to go a little bit to there. So just as you were talking, I've read, I'm sure you've heard of it or might have read it yourself. Like I didn't read this one, but The Secret, or the one I read
Yeah.
was like The Science of Getting Rich. It talks very much about manifestation. And
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of just popped into my head. I figured
Got you, yeah.
we'd jump there really quick. What are your thoughts on the power of that? And is there something there, would you say?
Yeah, so if you understand the nature of the world, there's two things. There's what's been manifested, right? You can see everything in your life that's been manifested, everything in the world that's been manifested, and then what has not been manifested. It's the unmanifested and the manifested. Those are the two more than anything.
Right.
So what's been manifested, you're like that, but then what hasn't been manifested? You know what I mean?
Mm.
So your consciousness is what's unmanifested. And then the energy behind your consciousness creates the manifestation.
Mm. And would you say that it kind of, and I think you had touched on it with regards to how the inputs kind of affect us, and we start to ruminate and create the reality of whatever we're feeling. On that side of it, would you say like manifestation in a sense, you really could, depending on what you're letting in, depending on how you're kind of responding to your stimulus, you can kind of manifest negative effects for yourself, or you can manifest positive effects. But
exactly.
Okay, so it all kind of flows into, again, the mindfulness and just being wary of all the inputs that we're exposed to.
Yeah, exactly. You have to just, again, be in the state of like constant observation. A lot of times, we forget our intention for doing something. You know what I mean? We're just like doing things, because we're running through that like program.
Right.
Like,
bro, I'll walk through a room and be like, damn, what'd I come in here for?
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
a perfect example, like practical, man.
But it's good to catch yourself in that and just kind of smile and give yourself grace. You know what I mean? Instead of being like,
you can curse.
I'm just like walking around here just completely lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like we always have to check back in and what's the intention for doing something, and like being like, oh, the feeling that I want to have, you know what I mean? So, because that's what it takes, is like saying, hey, I want to manifest this in my life, so I have this intention, right? So what does it really take? It takes awareness. It takes the power of my consciousness and the right energy to do it, and then we can manifest whatever we want, because if there's infinite things that has not been manifested in this world, then there's all the possibilities that exist, endless.
The world is your oyster.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned, and maybe we're gonna get a little philosophical here. So you mentioned it a couple of times through the conversation. God, what is, and the divine, I guess. Let's go more generally first. So how does that, what's kind of your view on that? And it's obvious that there's some spiritual element to all of this. So
definitely.
How does that kind of work for you?
Yeah, so, I grew up in a religious background, but and I grew up in the Catholic Church, but I didn't really connect to God, and I didn't really understand it,
Mm.
So I believe there is a divine creator, and that divine creator is not separate from us. I believe in oneness. So God is within us. It's not like we're trying to we're trying to people, what they do is they think God is up there in, I don't know, in the cosmos or in space, but God is within you. So the way I connect to God is through devotion. It's saying, God gave me this wonderful opportunity. You know what I mean? So I have free will. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's people talk about destiny in life, right? So this is all connected,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the divine, our creator, if you just look around the intricacy of all the things around in life, in nature,
Yeah.
okay? I know there's like atheists, and I respect everyone's perspective,
Right.
but if you just look around at like who created all this wonderful magic out
Yeah.
here, that's like this symbiosis
Mm.
for us to experience. So then I know there is something highly intelligent that created us.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the biological systems of all the animals, all the plants, the elements, everything. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? There's something that created this,
Right.
right?
Right.
So God is also so perfect that he gave us free will. He gave us our own intelligence, and he created us through love. Why would he create us? Not for self
Mm.
reasons. He created us because he was full of love in
Yeah.
my eyes, right? So there's a lot of people talk about destiny, right? And this is connected to God. When you're born, God is not like this is your destiny and it's fixed. That's nonsense.
Mm.
Why? Is because God gave you free will,
Right.
but then also your free will created your action, right?
Right.
So that's your karma. Your karma is like a cause and effect of life. It's like a universal law. So whatever you did caused this to happen. Whatever you didn't do also caused that to happen,
Right.
right?
So sorry, just there, and I
Yeah.
love this. So karma, and as you're explaining it, and because I've always, when I heard about it and studying the world religions, karma I kind of thought more of as a what you do, in let's say in the context of reincarnation, what you do kind of leads into your next life. But the way you just described it, which is interesting, and that's a
Yeah.
great perspective on it, is it's more of a consequential, almost immediate effect, which
I-
is logical. Like the karma, the thing that you do
Yeah.
here results, good or bad, in the following sequence.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know when it's gonna play out. But
Sure,
it's just,
sure.
It just plays out.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
But remember, it's not. It could be. It's just remember your action. You
Right.
know what I mean? So people think karma is like, oh, karma's coming to get you. It's just, hey, it's just again, whatever
Yeah.
your choices were in the past, whether they were full of mindful decisions or full
Sure.
of ignorance, there's
It plays out.
Yeah, it plays
These
out.
things play
I
out.
don't know when it
Right.
will, but it's
Yeah.
played out in my life a lot.
Right. No, me too.
You know what I mean?
Me too. Yeah.
So it's like a really potent energy, right? Karma. But then your free will is even more potent. Why? Is
Okay.
because what you decide to do right now can negate a whole lifetime of ignorance, which is if you decide to awaken to your true self, you decide to be conscious, okay? Not doing anything. I'm deciding to be conscious with my breath, with my awareness of who I am. Then I can use that free will to negate anything I've done out of ignorance in my past. So karma can be wiped out, like karma that's based in ignorance can be wiped out through mindfulness.
Mm.
You understand?
Yeah.
Your free will of being mindful.
Right.
God doesn't interfere with our ways. He just gave us free reign out here on
Yeah.
earth.
Yeah.
So that's where, circling back around to destiny is not fixed. Destiny is like many possible outcomes that you have in life, infinite possibilities and outcomes. So through your free will, you decide what you do right now that determines your destiny. Every second, the power of the now, you decide through your free will, which keys you in on a certain destiny. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And is it one of those things, kind of tying it back, but in that view, if there's a particular destiny that you would want to execute and that you want, you can kind of work towards it in
Yeah.
that sense, right?
Yeah,
In
exactly.
combining this practice of mindfulness and just being aware. And
Yeah.
I think you said a great word there, and the word devotion. It wish we had we could pull it up on the dictionary. I don't want to go on my phone, but
Yeah.
devotion is a very particular word, and it's
Yeah.
a powerful word in that context. And you had also touched on, I used to be an atheist.
Yeah.
I'm not anymore, but all those things and more. I was like ardent atheist, and I really think as I've grown older, my wife was a huge influence on it as well. But as I got older, it just became one of those things where it's like, well, it's almost, back when I was an atheist, one of the core arguments was like, it was ridiculous to even assert that there could be a creator. And like, as I would
Yeah.
run that through, I'm like, well, it's almost as ridiculous to hold that staunch and like just absolute belief, which is
Yeah.
a belief also. So it became this thing of like, well,
Yeah, exactly.
nobody knows. So an atheist is, it doesn't really, it doesn't fit, because how can
Yeah.
you be so sure? So that kind of opened the door for me.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's a journey. You know, I think that it's one of those things that's very personal, you know,
Exactly.
and I really appreciate you sharing as openly as you did, you know.
Yeah,
So,
likewise.
yeah.
And I appreciate, a lot of people, they might feel ashamed for being atheists when
Yeah.
they're like awakened, because
Right.
they're like,
Yeah,
But like,
and not to
yeah.
knock them, because
Yeah, exactly.
it's one of those things where there's solid arguments if you want to make them,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, you're closing yourself to a lot of different things. And another thing that I do think is true for many religious people is it. So before, for me, one of the counter arguments was, well, you know, we just created as humans. There's a natural biological fear of death, right? So
Exactly.
as a result of that, humans would naturally create religions, all of
Yeah.
which have an afterlife that, wouldn't you know it, beat death, right? So I would always,
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
what was very liberating for me
Exactly.
is, before I found God, I had already kind of come to terms, at least, with death.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't a thing of like, well, I'm afraid, even subconsciously, of death, and not to say I'm ready to die, right? There would be,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm saying I'm okay with the idea of death and that it will come for all of us. I walked into that phase of my life not out of fear, and more
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
a
yeah.
willingness to build a connection with.
Yeah, like a curiosity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's the most potent type of practice. You know, you can't come at it
Definitely.
as a, well, I'm gonna go with this one because, you know, some people consciously they're just afraid, and they harp. You'll hear them when they talk. They
Yeah.
harp on the heaven, on the afterlife. They harp on
Yeah,
it
they jump
almost.
to conclusions,
Yeah.
and that's the thing is there's always more. So, you know, it's like also like, what is death? You know what I mean? And what is life? So
Yeah.
that's really what it is
Right.
because if we're pure energy and pure consciousness, getting back to the mindfulness topic, it's like, if I know I am the consciousness that's animating my body, you know what I mean, through the breath and the awareness, I am the consciousness, which is energy, right? So energy can never be created nor destroyed.
Right.
So that proves that we don't die.
Yeah.
We're eternal
Yeah.
beings.
Right. The soul. Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're eternal beings. This shuts down any argument about death.
Yeah.
And yeah, our biological bodies do die at some point because they're made of physical materials, matter, and they're subject to oxidation. They're subjected to disease. It's subjected to all the things we put into it.
Yeah.
It's subjected to our mind, which is either mindful or catastrophic. Our mind, again, can destroy us.
Yeah. We
So
see
you're
it.
so depressed and you can't get out of bed.
Yeah.
It's a tool. It's an instrument. It's laser sharp.
Mm.
So that can cut through you to the point where you die because you're so angry. You have a
Right.
heart attack.
Yeah.
But your physical body dies. But then your energy, which can never be created nor destroyed, goes on
Mm.
to another shape or another form.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
You know?
Yeah. Listen, Nick, believe it or not, we are out of time, man. This hour flew by.
Wow.
Brother, I really appreciate you stopping by. I think it was a fantastic
pleasure.
conversation. The door's always open. It's not open right now, but it's always
Yeah.
open for you whenever
Thank
you
you
want to
so
come back
much.
again. I'd love to have you. I'm going to open it to you, please. Whatever you want to say, share your message. Whatever you'd like to say, camera's yours, man.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. It's a pleasure. And I would just tell everyone this is like no matter where you're at right now in life, is you can change your trajectory immediately. You know what I mean? No matter how much suffering or pain that you're going through right now, there's always another possibility. So, guys, love yourself enough. Forgive yourself for anything that you think you've done wrong. Forgive everyone else as well. And just understand that there's more and you can change your life immediately. Everything is temporary, but what's permanent is your consciousness.
I love it. Nick, thank you so much, brother.
My pleasure.
Good to see you, man. Till next time, everyone. Thank you.